Alright class, this is going to be a short video explaining how to use the STAR test for validity. So the STAR test is a method for determining when an argument is valid or invalid. That is, determining when an argument that, if its premises were true, would have to have a true conclusion, a conclusion that could not be false. And the STAR test has three steps, or three parts. The step one is that you need to translate an English statement and argument into its syllogistic form, into all claims, no claims, some claims, and some are not claims. Step 2 is that you need to underline all distributed letters and then star distributed premise letters and conclusion letters that are not distributed. And we'll go over this in more detail later. And then the last step is to look to see that after you've starred your distributed letters, that each capital letter in the argument is starred once and only once, and for only one letter to be starred on the physical right side of the argument. And we'll go in more detail into this later. And at the end, if you get to step 3 and each of your capital letters is starred once and only once, and you only have one letter on the right hand side, one starred letter on the right hand side of your argument, then you have a valid argument. In any other situation, it's invalid. Okay, let's talk about distribution. So distribution also has basically three rules. The first rule is that any letter immediately following all is distributed. So here's an example. If all x are y, well, that means x is distributed in this case because it follows all, but not y, because only the letter following all is distributed. For both letters in a no claim, they are distributed. So if I have no A or B, the rule says that both letters following a no claim are distributed. So in this case, both A and B would be distributed. And lastly, the letter that follows are not is distributed. So in this example, some A are not B, this means that B is distributed but not A. And by elimination, then, the last rule that isn't listed here is that any letter that follows some is not distributed. So if I say some A are B, well, that claim has no distributed letters. There's no all in it, there's no are not, and there's no no. So there would be no distribution. And we'll see more examples of this later. Alright, I'm going to run through a quick example and then we'll have more practice in some subsequent videos. The first thing I'm going to do is translate an argument into syllogistic logic from English. So here's the first premise of my argument. No pig can fly. Well, this is a no claim, clearly, and what it means is that no things that are pigs are things that can fly. So no P are F, which is the translation. Premise 2 says John is a pig. Now, I'm going to translate this as all things that are John are pigs. So all J are P. And then lastly, we have John cannot fly. This claim is a little ambiguous. You can translate it in one of two ways, and either way will work, although one I think is better than the other. When I look at this, I think this says, well, no things that are John can fly. And so I would translate this as no J are F. But you could also translate this as all things that are John are things that cannot fly. So all J are not F, although I think this is a little ambiguous. Either way, it won't matter for the STAR test. Okay, now that I've translated my argument, I'm going to underline my distributed letters. In the first premise, it's a no claim, so both letters are distributed, given the no rule for distribution. The second claim is an all claim, in which case just the J is distributed, because that's the rule for all. And then the final claim, if I translate it as no, that means both of the letters are automatically distributed, no J or F. However, if I had translated it as all J are not F, it would be the same scenario. I would underline J and F because both of them are distributed given the rules. The letter that immediately follows all is distributed, and the letter that immediately follows are not is distributed. Now I'm going to star distributed premise letters and conclusion letters that are not distributed. This is the tough rule to remember. In this case, the first premise, both are distributed, so both are starred. The second premise, one letter is distributed and it's starred. The conclusion, both letters are distributed, but the rule says the conclusion letters only get starred if they're not distributed, so there's no starring here. And it would be the same thing for all J are not F. Same deal. Okay. And I'm going to pause now to do some more examples of this before going over how to then assess this.